Mr. Speaker, the government's decision to raise the PST from 7 to 8% is the centerpiece of this government's economic strategy and, of course, was the centerpiece of its budget earlier this year. Mr. Speaker, today I table a response to a Freedom of Information request asking for the government's economic impact study on the PST increase. And I ask the Premier, who said he's concerned about the economy, why is it that the government raised the PST without ever doing a single economic impact study?
Mr. Speaker, what we saw was the economic forecast, which showed a slowdown in the economy, not only in Canada, but globally, Mr. Speaker. A global economic slowdown. We saw reports from the International Monetary Fund that said governments should take a balanced approach to grow their economies, not just to cut services. We saw the flood report that came out just weeks before the budget, which indicated up to another $1 billion needed to be invested to protect communities. And we knew that the responsibility to protect Manitobans from severe weather events like floods was our #1 priority, and to keep the economy going by building infrastructure. And both of those objectives were completely in sync with each other. Better dikes, better flood protection, better roads, all of those things will lead to a more prosperous Manitoba, Mr. Speaker. Those are the kinds of things that informed our decision this spring.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the Premier says he's concerned about the economy. And the economic impact of raising the PST is shown in presentations by many, many Manitobans who came to present at committee stage is impossible to ignore. It includes loss of business in Manitoba as people shop elsewhere. It includes business closing, businesses not investing in technology or research, businesses investing outside of Manitoba or transferring operations out of the province because of the rise in PST. So I ask the Premier, why did the government never seriously consider all these damaging economic impacts before making its decision on the PST?
We did take a look at the slowdown in the global economy and the Canadian economy. All provinces are starting to experience this right now. We did see the requirement to spend an additional $1 billion on top of the $1.25 billion that we've already spent for additional flood protection in Manitoba. We did see the returns from previous investments in flood protection. When we spent the $1 billion in the Red River Valley and to protect the city of Winnipeg from a 1 in 700-year event, we saw the cost benefit of that, Mr. Speaker. That $1 billion has avoided $30 billion in additional costs that stopped flooding in Manitoba. Mr. Speaker, when you can invest $1 billion to avoid $30 billion of damage, that's a good economic investment. That's a good investment for communities. That's a good investment for the economy. And our economy has done very well as a result of these investments we've made over the last 10 years, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier says he's concerned about the economy. But the concern is here that the economic impacts of raising the PST are large, and perhaps particularly so, as many have pointed out, for those on low incomes. Astonishingly, as we find out today, the government never thought to do an economic impact study. It's not too late, perhaps, for the Premier to reverse his decision to raise the PST, commission an independent economic impact study, and when the study is complete, share that information and trust the people of Manitoba to make the decision in a referendum. I ask the Premier, will he say today that he will do this study and have the referendum, or doesn't he trust Manitobans?
Nope. For the question, Mr. Speaker, we did see the results of previous investments in flood protection in Manitoba. The $1 billion that we invested in protecting the city of Winnipeg and all the people in the Red River Valley with ring dikes around their communities, with lifting their homes up 2 feet above the 1997 level, has resulted in $30 billion of savings on avoided flood costs for Manitoba. That's a very significant leverage of savings for Manitobans. It has allowed Manitobans to keep working. This spring, when without the flood protection around the city of Winnipeg, Winnipeggers would have been underwater. Winnipeggers were going to work every single day. Manitobans were working, and that is why we have the second lowest unemployment rate in the country. And if the members of the opposition and the leader of the Liberal Party would understand that when we build the province, build Manitoba Hydro, don't lay off public servants, invest in education, we will have prosperity, then we can move forward. That's what we're committed to, Mr. Speaker.